So I haven't been able to upload any videos last week because I was very sick, but now that I feel better, today I'm going to be talking about a brawler who I consider to be one of, if not the most difficult melee brawlers to use. Now, I'm sure many people can agree with me when I say Mortis can be quite frustrating to use for many reasons, but I'll get to that in a minute. Anyways, going over my loadout, for half of this video I'll be using Combo Spinner, which allows me to do an extra 2000 damage, and for the other half I'll be using Survival Shovel, which allows me to reload faster for 4 seconds. And for my star power I'll be using Cold Snake first and then Creepy Harvest after. So with all that said and done, let's get started. As I mentioned before in the beginning, I consider Mortis to be the most difficult melee brawler to use for 2 reasons. The first reason is that he has very low DPS and DPM. You see, at max level, Mortis does 2000 damage per attack, so that's 6000 damage in total, not including his gadget. Now, if you were to compare that number to the health of another brawler like say Cold, you'll notice that that's just barely enough to take them out. And that's assuming all of your attacks land, because a lot of brawlers nowadays have different gadgets and supers that allow them to either escape or minimize damage. But one big problem that comes from this is not necessarily his damage, but rather his attack speed. Not only is it literally very slow, but it's the slowest out of any other melee brawler. Now, I'm sure many people are going to say that the best attribute Mortis has is his ability to escape using his dashes, especially his longer one. And while I do agree with this, unless if you're using his gadget that allows him to reload faster, you're still vulnerable since your means of attack and escape are still the same thing. So the best way to win a battle or match is not just by having enough power cubes, but also attacking with everything you have and as fast as possible. At this point in the video I've already switched my loadout, but I won't really be talking about it that much. As for my other reason why I think Mortis is difficult to control, it's not as significant as the first reason, but I think it's still worth pointing out. And it's his attack pattern, or style I should say. And this comes down to 2 problems. The first is aiming his attack. For many brawlers, you're not really going to aim, and this is no exception for Mortis, especially since all you have to do is get close enough to a brawler and just spam the attack button. And while this sounds easy to do, if I'm attacking a brawler that's next to a wall, sometimes I find myself getting stuck on said wall. Unfortunately, I don't have any footage of this happening, but I do know most people have experienced this before. It's not something that's going to ruin your progress, but it is a small nuisance that can happen. As for my second problem, this is more obvious, but having to attack a brawler by going through them can cause some serious issues. Of course, taking damage is the biggest one of them all, and if you're going up against a brawler that is a huge damage dealer like Spike or Shelly, then your chances of surviving are slim to none. Now, earlier in this video, you might have seen me going up against a Shelly. She had 4 power cubes while I only had 3, and I was just barely able to take her out. Even though I had my super and gadget at the ready, it still wasn't enough, and if I had flinched for maybe a second, she could have easily won that battle. The point I'm trying to make is that Mortis is a very risky brawler to use, at least when it comes to going up against brawlers that are stronger than you. He may not be the easiest to use, but he's still good enough to hold his own. So Mortis is definitely a unique brawler. He's not as tanky as El Primo or Rosa, but he's not meant to be. He prioritizes agility over defense, and it's what makes him interesting to play. While I still have difficulty using him, I think he's still worth playing. Anyways, have a good day.